Okay, the first step in this is to lay down on your stomach, have your hands in a place that's comfortable, and then put your head in a place that's comfortable, whether it's turned to the right or the left or face down, and then begin to just roll your hips side to side. And after this becomes comfortable, lift your head and look the opposite direction that your hips go. So the next progression of this hip root is to be able to come up onto your hands and knees and have equal pressure between your hands and your knees. So 25% on your one hand, 25 on the other, 25 on one knee, and 25 on the other knee. So as equal distributed as you can between your knees and your hands. And then begin to, with your knees about a little bit wider than hip width apart, start to slide over towards the side as far as you can. And then come over the other direction. So sliding your hips to the left and then to the right. So easy, side to side. And you can do the same as when you're lying down. Whichever way your hips slide, you can look over the opposite direction. So if your hips slide to the left, you look over your right shoulder. And when your hips slide to the right, you look over your left shoulder. So the next progression of this hip root is to be able to have equal pressure on both of your hands and both of your feet. Feet are wider than hip width apart, head down, and begin to slide your weight over towards the right, and again slide your weight over towards the left. So it's a different pressure on your hip. It's a different lengthening that goes through the side of your hip joint. And just again, as you start to get a little bit more comfortable, when you slide to the right, you can look to the left, either over your shoulder or under your shoulder. There's a little bit of a bend in your knee to get more pressure onto that outside leg. Bend in the knee, slide yourself over. Bend in the knee, slide over. Look towards that opposite hip. So this pattern is called a standing hip shift. So we'll stand with your feet just about shoulder width apart. And then bend your right knee and slowly slide your hips over to your right as far as you can until you feel a little bit of tension in your hips. And then do the same thing to the opposite direction. Slowly bend your left knee and then slowly slide over towards your left side until you feel tension. Now depending on how tight your hips are, the closer your feet are together may be appropriate, or if you have a little bit more laxity in your hips, to spread your feet a little bit wider apart. And again, bend your knee, slide all the way over as far as you can so you can feel the weight in your hip. Open up the side of your hip joint and root your leg down into the ground. So with a good strong hip root. And then slowly slide yourself over to the other side, feeling that whole open side of your hip open up. Hip root down in through your knee, through your ankle, and through your foot, and then back over to the other side. And it's the idea of being able to slide side to side and open up your hip joints in standing.